Hi everyone, I know I'm late to the party to this, but I just wanted to say a couple things about where I'm at right now with my fandom of the MCU as a Marvel fan and where I think they are right now and where I think it's actually the worst position that they've ever been in. So here goes. So, Grace Randolph style. Anyway, so as a lot of you probably realize by now, Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars were both removed 7 months from their original release date because they need more time to work on this massive thing. And that's the only kind of explanation that we've gotten, is a lot of people around it think that this is just such a massive project that there's no way they can get it done in time. And I would agree. I think that was a ridiculous window for a release originally, but there's other talk going on as well because they haven't just removed them from the original release date, pushed back 7 months, but they also took away all of their future slots that they were going to have movies released in after Secret Wars. All of those are gone. So as of now, this is all we have going forward. And I heard a lot of talk, and I agree with this, that this is not just based on the sheer scale of Doomsday and Secret Wars. It's also probably a reaction to the box office recently. Now, Thunderbolts, as a lot of you know, I did not like in the least. I did not think it was a good movie or a good exploration of mental health, as people said. And I do think that the hype calling it a masterpiece was a bit overblown by their fans. But bottom line, it was not a critical disaster. It got a good score on Rotten Tomatoes. It was not panned en masse by anyone. It was obviously not a post-production disaster in the least. Everything seemed to go smoothly for the film, and the naysayers like me were few. However, undeniably, the movie has crashed at the box office. It had a 180 million budget, 100 million marketing, doing the 2.5 multiplier to understand how much it needed to make back. It needed at least 400 to 450 to make back its budget. And it's not even going to get that. And Captain America Brave New World even got over 400 million at the box office. Thunderbolts isn't going to get anywhere near that because it's only made like 350 million in its fourth weekend. It's going to lose almost all its screens next week. And so it's pretty much done. So here you have a Marvel movie that got good results from the reception, that didn't have any controversy around it, that it failed to move the needle at the box office. No one cared about it. Even though Marvel used to be a brand where you could have complete nobodies of characters come out and would make a lot of money. Guardians of the Galaxy, even the Ant-Man movies managed to crack 600 million. Doctor Strange, completely unknown to the mainstream public, managed to crack 600 million. That isn't so anymore. The Marvel train has been killed on that level, where it doesn't matter if you get good reception, people aren't going to show up because they've seen so many Marvel's movies this time that have been bad. You know, I was talking to a friend who used to love Marvel and watch all of them, who I mentioned I did a Thunderbolts review. She didn't even know Thunderbolts was coming out. She said at one point or another, she just stopped paying attention to Marvel, and that's on them. And that's what's happened. Now, I think that this moving the release date is not just a reaction to the Thunderbolts. I think it's also a reaction to Fantastic Four, because the conversation around Fantastic Four ever since Thunderbolts bombed isn't Fantastic Four in trouble too? Because these are characters who have never clicked with the mainstream public. I mean, I think that it's because they never done them right, but it's true. All they've had in the past 20 years is movies that have flopped. The first Fantastic Four did well enough to get a sequel, that flopped, and then Fan Four Stick was a big disaster. These characters have no proof that they can sell to the mainstream public. All they have to the mainstream public is brand damage, and the thought of why Fantastic Four was a good idea for the MCU is MCU was a brand that could get characters to be done right. They proved that people trusted them so much that they would come to see movies even to unknown characters. So it was thought that a Fantastic Four movie under the MCU banner could do really well because MCU had that good brand recognition, but they've lost that in recent years. So with the brand damage of both Fantastic Four and the MCU, how well do you think that this movie is going to do? especially coming out so close to some other blockbusters this summer. Like, I can tell you, like, I know when there's hype for something. There is not hype for Fantastic Four. I even think that there's more interest for Superman than Fantastic Four because he's more of an iconic character, but that's just me looking at the internet. And you guys, you have to understand, even Superman, even if that movie is well received and their fans love it and all of that, even that movie is in danger because Superman himself, he might be the most iconic character in the world. I think he was listed as like one of the most recognizable icons of all time, but his movies still have not ever cracked $1 billion. The highest grossing one was $600 million with Man of Steel, and that was coming right after the superhero boom where superhero everything was selling. Like, I think X-Men Days of Future Past didn't just get the highest grossing X-Men movie just because it was the best one, but also because the superhero genre had taken off and that was just rising all of their box offices. But that's clearly ending right now. So there's a question of, even if Superman is well received, how well is it really going to do? 500 million? 600 million? The days of superhero movies being guaranteed $1 billion at the box office are clearly gone. So with all that in mind, like, of course, Doomsday and Secret Wars should be running scared. Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four were going to be there leading to those movies, and they might not work out. They're certainly not going to bring the mainstream public to them. And then, so I think that that's why Spider-Man Brand New Day is coming out first, because at least Spider-Man is still a guaranteed hit at the box office that could lead into those movies. So that's where I think that they're at right now. They're running scared, and they're seeing that the situation is a lot more dire than they thought. It's a lot worse than just needing to hit good Rotten Tomatoes scores again, because you've just lost a lot of people. But here's what I want to say about this. When it comes to brand damage, sometimes there's no going back from that, and that's a real danger right now that I think that Marvel needs to realize. Now, why did I say that Superman might not do well? Because the DC brand is damaged, and Superman has never been the mega hit that he should be at the box office without Batman. And, like, they were saying that The Flash was going to do really well as a movie because he's a comic book icon. And they had Michael Keaton coming in the movie. And then the movie bombed spectacularly. So Superman is in trouble in this modern day. It's not the time when people are willing to go see any superhero movie at the box office anymore. They can't just be even a comic book icon. They have to be a character like Deadpool, for example. Didn't have any bad will to him that was successful in the past. Now, the Avengers is a brand that might be successful still. But what if they damage that too? And guys, there can be no going back with this stuff when it comes to damaging your brand. Let's look at some examples. Terminator, that was a huge franchise. Terminator Judgment Day was this huge film, but over time, they came out with more and more movies for the Terminator franchise. They got worse and worse. They damaged the idea of the universe and what the Terminator brand was over the years. Terminator Genesis probably being the most offensive of all. So it got to the point where people didn't care about Terminator anymore. No one went to see Terminator, what was it even called? The one where John Connor gets murdered. And I heard that they recently did a Terminator animated series that was good, but I didn't watch it, and neither did most people, because for modern day Terminator stuff, it's been damaged. Now, what's some other examples? DC. I think that Thunderbolts is very comparable to Shazam, even though I think Shazam is a far better movie. But Shazam came out after a lot of bad damage to the DC brand, and no one watched it, even though it got very, very good reviews when it came out. And DC fans were really, really talking it up as, look, they're finally putting out some good quality films now. No one cared. Why? Because you messed up Batman and Superman at that point to the mainstream public, so of course they wouldn't care about a lesser-known character. And as we've covered with The Flash, even with a bit more well-known of a character, like, that can go away too if you've damaged your brand enough. Another example, the Transformers franchise. When Bumblebee came out, great rave reviews, there was talk of the Transformers movies are back, they're finally making good films. But the movie barely made anything at the box office. Why? Because the Transformers brand had so much damage at that point that no one cared. And that's the same thing with Transformers 1. Yes, bad marketing had to do with it, but also people really don't care about the Transformers brand anymore because it's been so damaged. The same thing can happen to Marvel. At least they have some evidence that maybe Spider-Man can do well, or Deadpool, or a character like that. But, like, it seems that everyone is dead convinced that Doomsday is going to be bad. It's going to be a disaster, and they don't like the idea of Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom. Like, what happens if Doomsday is a disaster and the movies have the X-Men in it? Like, that's all that we've been hearing behind the scenes, is that the rumor is that the movie is going to be Doctor Doom pitting the Avengers and the Fantastic Four versus the X-Men. Now, the X-Men already have brand damage in and of themselves because they finished out with Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix. Now, what happens if you have the X-Men in 2 Avengers films that are panned and hated, if that is the case? Then that means that you guys might be closing the door on you doing your new X-Men movies because people won't be interested in them because of how damaging the brand has been, even if those X-Men movies are good. That's why, like, I was talking to a friend the other day saying that the Avengers movies just need to be canceled. Will they be? Of course not. They're already in production. They've already sunk money into them. But this is why it was such a bad idea to fly off half-cocked to make these films when you didn't even know if your plan going forward with Thunderbolts, which is a movie you probably shouldn't have made, and Fantastic Four, which is another movie you probably shouldn't have gone forward with, would have worked. It was just flying off to this Robert Downey Jr. is Victor Von Doom idea that no one in the fan base liked, and it is difficult to get comic book fans to agree. We all agreed we didn't want that, and now you're kind of locked with it, and these 2 movies could damage your brand permanently. So that's where I'm at right now. Like, I love Marvel Comics, I love the original MCU movies, I love Marvel games, but I'm just not looking forward to anything, and I see them just, like, staring down the barrel of an apocalypse event for their brand, because I've seen this happen before with other things where you can't bring people back. That's why Superman is at risk right now, because of all the damage to the DC brand. And Marvel is staring down that direction right now. So I wish that they hadn't have done this. And it's a big question about where the movie industry in general is going to go once they can't depend on these films anymore. I don't know if they'll just close up shop because they're not making any changes. But that's where I'm at right now. What do you think of all this? What do you think about franchises that do brand damage? Do you think that Marvel and DC are past the point of no return? Or do you think that the Avengers can somehow salvage them? Let me know in the comments below. Keep in mind that they're still trying to use the Avengers name to prop up so many of their films. They could completely destroy that too. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. If you want to support my work, please consider becoming a member or a patron, and I will see you guys next time.